Before I start any review. No, I don't know how or why Brawlhalla is big as it is and that no one knows anyone who plays that game. Mostly due to not knowing any French people who live in France or are 13 years old. PS something about loads of Ubisoft money and all the characters are Uber generics clones of each other, not even Rayman being in that game could entice me to play it. Platform Fighters Part 1 and looking for a perfect schedule. Smash Killers? Can such a thing exist? I'll answer that next week. The question today is, what will be the third game to fill out the schedule? As it is known that I play Smash and consume a lot of Smash related content and so on. Part 1 of this review, you would expect me to review and analyze the pros and cons of various platform fighters and how it can compete with Smash. That would be very logical, however that's going to be part 2 of this review, to come out next, because I want you to consider a known but not often spoken about problem with platform fighters in the competitive environment. That being stream scheduling, i.e. ever since Project M got the boot of Twitch, oversimplification of sorts but for brevity, let's say PM main being on Twitch did impact the schedule. Majors between 2010 to 2015 had a holy trinity of games to show on the last day, Melee/Brawl/PM and the glory of the one-man army M2K melting time around his schedule. Ever since PM was game no grata on Twitch, majors have found new ways and often failed ways to fill out schedules for the stream viewer. I shall be using Genesis as a main point for comparison since I think it highlights the vast problem, not an actual problem but more of an annoyance, that stream schedulers have ran into trying to fit in the third game for the variety and viewership interest. Genesis 3, 2015, 64/small4sh/melee all top 8s shown on the last day. I still maintain this has been the greatest last day for any Smash tourney of all time, with all top 8 being certified greatest of all time with Isai Legendary Run, the Rana Experience, the legendary set and run back between MA and G0 vs Armada Grand Finals, which I stayed up all night to watch. This is a memorable great tournament that also set the seeds of its own problem due to the fact that 64 did have Isai and people were willing to watch it, unsure if it convinced anyone to play 64, but even so it felt lucky that top 8 was as classic as it was, as only recently till that point the soreness surrounding PM getting kicked off Twitch was still felt and the beginning of divergent interest from PM versus mainstream Melee was to begin, and the start of Melee Pro stopped taking any active interest in PM and having to watch PM on Hitbox. Later Smashcast felt a bit scuffed and now PM tourneys are ran on Twitch since I think the mods stopped caring, and also YouTube. Genesis 4, 2017, top 6 64/top 8 small 4sh/top 4 Melee doubles/top 8 Melee singles. First thing to note, ROA was released by then even in a very questionable state. As stated, I am not reviewing the last day of these games, it was just in context of Genesis 3, it just had to be stated how great of a last day that was. I already remember at this time when 64 got muscled out and called too slow, and that Melee doubles was really starting to get a new wind of life with more focuses on static Melee teams and a special regard for Plub/M2K and Android/Armada. Genesis 5, 2018, 64 top 6/ROA top 6/small 4sh top 8/Melee doubles top 4/Melee singles top 8. In hindsight this was way too ambitious of a schedule, and I think this did get a lot of criticism of the time and straight afterwards, and let's say people were not being diplomatic on how slow 64 had made the schedule. Thank fuck Plub 1 making it memorable for that, and also 3 hours after that was when Europeans were waking up to all the new Plub Club memes. Genesis 6, 2019, top 8s for all 64/ROA/Melee/ULT and Melee doubles was dropped. TBF I completely don't remember this Genesis outside of Melee. Genesis 7, 2020, yes the last major before lockdown and even before people really understood COVID. If there was ever a Adam Curtis style documentary on the Smash scene, Genesis 7 would be the uncanny foreboding footage for all what was about to happen over lockdown, and also Kobe passing away that weekend and everyone also immediately afterwards saying how really ill they felt from that tourney. The schedule itself reflected what a mess/brave new ideas Smash scheduling had become. Also BTS/Smash the Summit had an undue influence on this as well, which he'll get to later. The schedule for the last day of Genesis 7 is as followed: ROA top 8/ an ultimate pre-show/ultimate top 8/ a Melee pre-show/Melee top 8, and this is where the era of creating content with content creators to please the masses took its zenith and immediate demise. Outside of Summit, all in effort to fill out the schedule for the viewers as the mythical third game has yet to rise and materialize. Pre-lockdown 2015 to 2020 Smash. Crew/double/side events, the BTS stars and you. Before I start this segment, can we get a minute of silence for Icons Combat Arena? No one was taking that game seriously, and its rather fair or unfair association with the end of PM didn't help the cause. It's legit not actually worth talking about even to this day, as much as their Twitter account is deeply inactive. I actually did get to play Icons at Air 4 on a laptop. My god, what a terrible game, and not even interesting, terrible borderline cringe that is all. Also let me just quickly segue into the UK/EU perspective on this in my very limited scope and say the end of PM didn't really hit the EU scene as much, since specialist weeklies for the game were pretty limited and every time it was ran at Beast or Air it had mixed responses, but people liked playing it all the same, until we get to the P+ segment. During SM4SH early ULT many UK TOS side events were often Pokemon X/Y or Mario Kart, and we knew we never gonna run Splatoon, and to be fair only one Smash major tried Splatoon as a headline game, that being Don't Park on the Grass, and the very few times tourney ran Slap City it barely got any entrances. Between 2015 to 2020 during peak Summit/Red Bull/Yahoo Esports and broadly positive mainstream reputation and coverage, there were many attempts to fully capitalize on this as shown by the compendiums to get every major to have its accompanying documentary, and every Summit until start of lockdown broke numbers in money raised. It was also peak side event time, with crew battles being really hype and often the battle between SoCal and Florida carrying weight alto for SM4SH Lesso, and ended up being a farcical America versus Japan versus EU/CAN/Max combined team, although it's ironic that it was Melee that ended crew battle hype when I believe it was Genesis 5 where the crew battles were not geographic but chosen by captains, which still has its hype, but then last minute changes had to be made so Armada and Leffen sandbagged. And crew battles in any regional sense were never really a thing again. Same with salty sweets. Now I could write a delicate history of salty sweets and why for on balance they never no longer exist, as manufactured beef is lame and real beef can be harmful and rarely can anything land in the middle. Also that debate versus S2J salty sweet for Genesis 4 was super lame and terrible. Melee singles and Melee doubles and SM4SH singles and SM4SH doubles living in harmony during this time, apart from when SM4SH doubles wanted to ban Double Cloud because fuck Double Cloud, and I do think some tourneys did ban Double Cloud. To note, Double Pikachu is banned in 64, then Ultimate came along and we all collectively decided, if too quickly but still correct, that ULT doubles ain't it. But what if I gave the true enlightened take and tell you that both ULT doubles and ULT Squad Strike absolutely suck? If there was to be a top 500 Smash sets of all time, neither a ULT doubles or ULT Squad Strike will ever be there. No one cares, it never got the views to begin with. Rishi Jungle Jam Loki rated it but a bit too flawed to ever be taken as a game to occupy stream time. Sammy singles is fun but only on modified setups where you can jump back into the game or if you could have a round system built in. Lockdown/Born/Slippy/Instant Rise and Fall of P+. Lockdown and its impact will affect and impact everyone who experienced for a considerable amount of time. In terms of Smash itself as a competitive game, it massively reduced turnout for a while, but due to Slippy overall player base grew even on a tangential level and people having genuine, good faith, arguments about Slippy impact on weekly attendance. The economic impact and the falling through of a lot of esports and venture capital hurt the Smash scene in various ways, and this is where I do have to get to the point that one of the reasons why Smash TOS want to find a new platform fighter to fill the spot PM left behind is that they want to invest in a game that can bring in new but also compatible people into the competitive Smash scene whilst not overlooking their shoulder for that Nintendo is going to do, and we know what they did, and for the small time that Multiverses was about with Warner Brothers handing out cash in prize pools and tourney funding for any tourney that would host the game, it looked like an alternative to look at until the game dropped off the face of the earth in terms of player base and viewing figures, not helped by it being a genuinely hard game to watch. During lockdown in the release of P+, there was hope and harmony, and so many people were interested in getting to play and be involved in P+, and when the first majors starting popping back up and having P+ back in the Holy Trinity all seemed good and right with the world until Nintendo told Riptide, 2021, Noel that ended that. Post lockdown and still watching and waiting. Throughout all of this, I've failed to mention one of the biggest problems with the schedule are the players itself, and ever since Leffen started to complain about burnout and lack of preparation, every top 8 has dragged and dragged with 10 minutes or more between sets, and for a while this did make me watching tourneys live very unviable, and for a while, whilst I still watch tourneys ID, just go on YouTube and use a third-party extender to block the time so I won't get spoiled. TBF, this has been fixed in part by the greatness of multicasting where you can just watch 4 sets at once along with Subway Surfers, although unsure how this is going to fly under Nintendo new directions since it does rely on the Slippy components. Post-lockdown, and I can say Melee doubles is kinda irrelevant, and Armada promised to play doubles stopped when Shadat and Hbox kept slapping them up, and now it is literally just IBDW and JMOOC sweeping everyone, and no one is in the mood anymore for side events, and there will be no more Summit to satisfy that craving. No Smash or platform fighters in general at EVO, apart from when Multiverses bribed Diva with a ton load of cash for a 16-player invitational, which my boy Void 110k the best thing that game ever did, so it's still a great game in my book. I know EVO and Smash have had a strained relationship and Prob did each other reputational damage before the Sony buyout, but everyone understood its value and the now missed chance of not seeing Leffen slap his way through both GG and Melee at the same tourney will be forever missed, or will it? And I truly do believe the first non-Smash platform fighter to make it at EVO on its own merits and represent the platform fighter genre again might actually force Nintendo to change in some parts its attitude and be a good thing overall, but I just don't see it happening unless Arceus makes a hybrid anime/platform fighter. I've mentioned it in passing, but ROA is a game I enjoy playing and watching and has won several times at Pizza Time with Renault's being the Frogoat, and it is objectively wrong to call the game a failure or didn't exceed expectations, but also there must have been a lingering through it in the back of the mind knowing this game could have been a real contender for true mainstream FGC success and not being shackled by copyright and IP law shenanigans, and whilst my view is dimmed by the UK experience of Rivals just not really being the crowd puller that some were hoping for, but in America it always made just enough of the numbers to justify and some more being there. It is unfortunate that if we did live in a fair and just world, P+ would be allowed at mainstream Smash tourneys, and I'd assure you it would have had more entrants than SM4SH ever did. So we're into 2023, Nintendo dropped the rule set to end all rule set in ambiguous harshness, and weary eyes look onto Rivals 2 for slight relief, and TBF it's looking like that and more until you realize it's probably going to struggle on the Switch, and the Switch 2 is still a known unknown. All prelim stats do look promising. You'll get into this part 2 of why I don't think a Smash killer would ever exist in a way we would imagine it to be, but for the platform fighter genre being de facto shackled to Nintendo hardware for the ease to get into the Smash scene player base, and also many liking the GameCube controller to play platform fighters with will always be a mitigating factor. Also ROA 1 really did shoot itself in the foot with the Xbox version being unpatched and stuck on the old patch due to coding issues. Some other quick thoughts. I do like watching Smashkin side events, and Nick All-Stars Brawl was fun to watch, but also because Coney and Max Ketchum actually knew what was going on. One of the understated problems with the Nintendo rule set is that the SMASH64 community has decided their game had become too stale with the triangle of Pikachu/Kirby/Falcon, and so Play 64 Remix not anymore if they want to be at majors again. For a while I legit thought Guilty Gear was just going to be the main side event for Smash majors heading forward, if only to entice Leffen back. I do Mississippi Summit, but every year something about the voting process kept getting worse, even if actually they reformed the system to be better. Dabas was the best or second best player in the world for PlayStation All-Stars. Watching the viewership drop due to Steve and knowing I am reliving the Bayo problem again is legit kinda sad, because everyone in hindsight agreed Bayo should have been banned. But we can't ban Steve because Japan holds a veto on that. Melee doubles ain't coming back, but Melee triples? Also I'll make a video essay on SM4SH triples on day. Most majors now outside of Genesis just have top 48 on last day now and even overlap often with Melee and ULT, knowing the no crossover in players. Better start learning PAL again.